attention to any of that. He was lying perfectly still on the couch, eyes closed, pretending to be unconscious. And why? Because he had noticed something off about the new maid, Anna. She was quiet. Too quiet. She moved like she was trying not to be seen. And her eyes, they looked like they were hiding something. Stephen had instincts honed over decades, instincts that had saved his life more times than he could count. And this morning, those instincts were screaming. So he decided to test a theory. He would pretend to be unconscious and listen. Before the maid entered, he whispered to his viewers. Tell me something, which country and which city are you watching from right now? I want to see how far this story is traveling. Then he lay his head back and stilled his breathing. A soft creak echoed from the hallway. Footsteps. Light, but deliberate. She was approaching. Anna paused at the doorway, watching him carefully. Stephen kept his breathing steady, slow, heavy, believable. His eyes remained shut, but his senses sharpened like a blade. She stepped closer, and closer still. For a moment, she simply stood beside him as if uncertain. Then, slowly, she began speaking, but not to him. She was on the phone. Her voice was faint at first, trembling. Stephen focused. Yes. I'm inside the house, she whispered. He's not moving. I think this is the perfect time. Perfect time? For what? A chill ran through Stephen's spine, but he didn't break character. She continued. I'm telling you, I don't want to do this. He's a good man. But you said if I don't, you'll? She stopped suddenly. Her voice cracked. No, please. Not my brother. I'll do it. Just don't hurt him. Stephen's jaw tightened, but he remained motionless. He had expected maybe theft. Maybe a spy. Maybe someone trying to sell information. But this? A woman being forced into something, because her brother was threatened? Anna wiped her face with the sleeve of her uniform. Stephen could hear the emotion choking her words. I'm scared. If Stephen wakes up before I finish, everything will fall apart. He's too strong. Too smart. You know what he's capable of. Stephen almost smirked at that, but stayed still. She walked to the shelf where Stephen kept his antique artifacts, gifts from world leaders, friends, and film sets across years. She opened a small velvet pouch and pulled out something that Stephen knew very well. A jade pendant from a Shaolin master. Price? Not money. Respect. Honor. Only a handful of people knew he had it. Why would someone want that? Anna held the pendant in her shaking hands. I don't understand why this is so important, she whispered. You said it contains information? I don't get it. Information? Stephen's mind raced. Only one person could be behind this. A powerful man. A dangerous one. Someone Stephen had crossed paths with years ago in Asia. He had warned Stephen. One day you'll pay for ruining my plans. Stephen hadn't cared then. He cared now. Anna's voice softened as she stared at the sleeping, or pretending, man. I'm sorry, Stephen. You don't deserve this. But I can't lose my brother. I can't. Her tears fell onto the marble floor. Stephen could feel her pain. He could feel her fear. And instead of anger, he felt something else. Compassion. She wasn't his enemy. She was a pawn. Anna placed the jade pendant into her pocket and took a deep breath. Then something unexpected happened. She reached into her purse and pulled out a photograph. Stephen heard her whisper. You saved my family once. Years ago. You didn't even know. If you hadn't helped that charity, my brother wouldn't be alive today. That's why this hurts. Stephen's mind flashed back. A charity event. Medical supplies he funded. An emergency surgery he paid for without asking for recognition. Was that her brother? Anna's voice shook again. I swear I will return this pendant tonight. I just need proof to send them. They said they'd release him if I send a picture. I'll bring it back. I promise. She lifted her phone, camera aimed at the pendant in her hand. Just one photo. But before she could take it, her phone buzzed. A message. She read it, and froze. Her face turned white. Her hand trembled violently. No, no, please no. Her knees buckled, and she fell onto the carpet. They said if I don't leave with the real pendant, right now, they'll kill him today. Stephen knew he couldn't pretend any longer. But he also knew something else. If he moved too fast, she would panic. If he revealed himself too soon, she might flee straight into danger. He needed to think. He needed a plan. The situation had just changed. Dramatically. And Steven Seagal was now facing something far more serious than a simple betrayal. He was facing a trap designed to strike his heart, his history, and possibly his future. Steven Seagal's eyes remained closed, but inside his mind, a war was unfolding. Anna's quiet sobs filled the room like a knife twisting deeper with every breath. She wasn't an enemy, she was a terrified sister fighting to save her brother. And the people using her, they were his real enemies. Enemies who had waited years to make their move. Steven knew he had only seconds before Anna stood up and left with the jade pendant. And if she walked out that door while believing she was alone, she would walk straight into a trap that could kill her and her brother. He needed to stop this. But he needed to do it without frightening her. For a moment, Steven asked himself, and now you, the viewer. If you were in my position right now, would you stay quiet? Reveal yourself gently? Or confront Anna immediately? Think honestly. Because what Steven did next would decide whether Anna's brother lived, or died. Steven makes his move. Anna wiped her tears and stood up on shaking legs. She clutched the pendant tightly, whispering, "I'm sorry, please forgive me." She turned toward the door. Steven breathed in. Then out. Then, with the calm of a man who had survived wars, storms, betrayals, and ambushes, he finally opened his eyes. And spoke. "Anna." She froze. The pendant slipped from her fingers and clattered onto the marble floor. Her whole body trembled as she slowly turned toward him. Her eyes widened, fear, guilt, confusion mixing into one storm. "Steven, why you're awake?" He sat up slowly, no sudden movements, his voice steady and warm. "I've been awake for a while." Anna staggered back, her hand covering her mouth. I didn't want to steal it. I swear. They forced me. They have my brother." "I know," Steven said softly. "I heard everything." Her knees gave out, she dropped to the floor. "I didn't want to betray you. I didn't know what to do. They told me they'd kill him if I didn't." Steven moved closer, lifting the pendant from the floor, then placing it gently in her trembling hands. "Anna, look at me." She hesitantly lifted her eyes. "You're not my enemy," Steven said. "You're a victim. And nobody threatens a family member of someone under my roof." She gasped. She hadn't expected kindness. She had expected rage. But Steven wasn't just a fighter. He was a protector. Anna took a breath, her voice cracking. "They said the pendant contains information. I don't even know what it is. They just—" "It does," Steven interrupted. "And it's information they've been after for a long time." He opened the pendant, revealing a tiny engraved code hidden inside the jade. "This code," Steven explained, "belongs to a vault in Hong Kong. Inside that vault are documents that expose the man who kidnapped your brother." Anna's eyes widened. "You mean, this was always about him?" Steven nodded. "They want this code so they can destroy the evidence inside that vault. Evidence that could put them away for life." "So, they used me," Anna whispered. "They used my brother, just to get to you." Steven placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "That's how cowards operate." Anna wiped her tears, her breathing shaky. "What do we do?" "I'll do anything, just save my brother. Please." Steven looked straight into her eyes. "We are going to save him. But you must trust me. And you must be brave." "I'll try," she whispered. "No," Steven said gently. "You'll succeed." He walked to his desk and pulled out a secure phone. "Tell them," he instructed, "that you're bringing the pendant. You'll meet them at their location. They won't suspect anything." Anna's face went pale again. "But won't they hurt me? Or hurt him if they realize?" "They won't realize," Steven said firmly. "Because you won't be going there alone." Anna looked confused. Steven tightened his gloves. "You'll walk in. I'll walk behind you. And they will never see me coming." But before dialing, he looked directly toward the camera, toward you, the viewer, and asked, "If you had to rescue someone you care about, would you risk walking straight into a trap, if that was the only way?" He paused, giving the audience a moment to feel the weight of the question. "Think about it." Then he handed the phone to Anna. Her fingers shook as she dialed. A cold voice answered instantly. "Do you have it?" Anna glanced at Steven. He nodded. "Yes," she said softly. "I have the pendant." "And you didn't wake him?" the man asked. Anna swallowed. "No. He's still unconscious." Steven smirked silently. "Good," the voice hissed. "Be at the abandoned warehouse on River Street in 40 minutes. Alone. No mistakes." The call ended. Anna lowered the phone with shaking hands. Stephen placed a hand on her shoulder. You did well. But the warehouse, Anna whispered. Isn't that place dangerous? It is, Stephen admitted. For them. The walk toward war. As they prepared to leave, Stephen handed Anna a small device. What is this? She asked. A tracker. Keep it hidden. No one will know I'm right behind you. Anna nodded, still terrified, but more determined now. Stephen, what if something happens to me? He gave her the same look he had given countless people he'd protected over the years. Nothing will happen to you. You're under my protection now. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the driveway. Anna took a deep breath and stepped toward the unknown. Stephen followed, silent, deadly, calculating. The enemy thought they were about to win. They had no idea Steven Seagal was coming. And he wasn't coming quietly. He was coming to end this, once and for all. The abandoned warehouse on River Street looked like a skeleton, a massive concrete structure with shattered windows, rusted beams, and shadows that stretched like claws across the cracked floor. A cold wind pushed against the loose metal sheets, making them rattle like warning bells. Anna stepped toward the entrance, her breath shaky, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. Every step felt heavier than the last. Behind her, unseen, Steven Seagal moved like a ghost. Silent. Focused. Ready. This was enemy territory. And he could feel danger in the air like electricity. Inside the beast's den. As Anna entered, the smell of dust and oil hit her nose. Old machinery lay scattered like skeletons of a forgotten time. Graffiti covered the cracked walls, and somewhere far inside, a water pipe dripped rhythmically. Then, a voice. Well, you actually came. From the shadows stepped a tall man with slick black hair and a scar running across his jaw. His eyes were cold, calculating, eyes that had seen too much and cared too little. Anna, he said with mock sympathy. You should have known better than to trust that washed-up actor you work for. Anna swallowed, trying not to show fear. I brought the pendant, just like you asked. More men emerged from behind metal crates, 3, then 5, then 8. They surrounded her like wolves, forming a tight circle. The leader smirked. Let me see it. Anna hesitated. Her fingers trembled as she took out the pendant. Behind a pillar near the entrance, Stephen watched everything. His eyes scanned the shadows. He counted the men. Measured their stances. Calculated his angles. 8 men, plus the leader, 9 in total. More than enough to kill Anna. Less than enough to stop him. Anna's brother. Before Anna could hand over the pendant, she shouted. Where is my brother? The leader chuckled. You're in no position to negotiate. I want to see him. Anna demanded, louder this time, her voice shaking with fear and desperation. The leader snapped his fingers. 2 men dragged someone forward, a thin young man, beaten, bruised, barely able to stand. His hands were tied, and dried blood marked the corner of his lip. Anna gasped. Elio. Her brother lifted his head weakly. Anna, don't do it, don't give them anything. A guard struck him across the back with a metal pipe. Quiet. Anna stepped forward in panic. But the leader raised a hand. Give me the pendant, and maybe we let him live. Anna looked at her brother. Then at the pendant. Then at the men surrounding her. She felt trapped. Helpless. Alone. But she wasn't alone. Stephen's voice echoed in her memory. You are under my protection now. And in that moment, she made a choice. She didn't hand over the pendant. She tightened her grip around it. No. The leader blinked. What did you say? I said no, Anna whispered. You're not getting this. The warehouse fell silent. Then the leader laughed darkly. Kill her. Stephen enters the fight. A gun was raised. A finger curled on the trigger. A single heartbeat passed. Then, crack. A wooden crate exploded as Steven Seagal burst from the shadows, moving with a speed that didn't belong to a man his age. His elbows snapped forward, smashing the gunman's wrist, sending the weapon flying. Before the others could react, Steven spun, catching another man's arm and slamming him into a steel pillar with bone-shattering force. The warehouse erupted into chaos. It's him. It's Seagal. Stop him. But they couldn't. Steven flowed like water, struck like lightning. His movements were precise, deadly, and impossibly calm. 2 men charged him with pipes. Steven sidestepped, grabbed one by the throat, and used him as a shield while kicking the other's legs out from under him. The leader shouted wildly. Shoot him. A man aimed his gun. Stephen snapped the pipe from the floor and threw it with sniper accuracy. It struck the gunman's hand so fast he screamed before he hit the ground. Another man tried to flee. Stephen grabbed him by the collar, whispered, "Wrong day to pick a fight." Then slammed him through a wooden table. Anna and Leo. While the fight raged, Anna rushed to her brother. "Leo, are you okay?" He coughed weakly. "Anna, you shouldn't have come." "Stephen is here," she whispered. "You're going home." Leo froze. "Steven Seagal? The Steven Seagal?" Anna almost laughed. "Yes. And he's destroying everyone." The final confrontation. Within minutes, 8 men were on the ground, groaning, unconscious, or begging for mercy. Only the leader remained. He backed away slowly as Stephen approached him, silent and terrifying. "You think you can stop me?" the leader spat. "You don't even know who I work for." Stephen stepped closer. "I don't care who you work for." Stephen grabbed the leader by the shirt, dragging him close enough to feel his breath. "You threatened a woman under my roof. You kidnapped her brother. And you came after something that could destroy your entire network." The leader pulled a hidden knife. But Stephen caught his wrist midair and squeezed. The knife dropped instantly. Stephen twisted the man's arm behind his back, forced him to the ground, and whispered, "You're done." With one final strike, the leader collapsed. Reunion. Anna rushed forward, tears streaming down her face. "Stephen, thank you. You saved us." Leo bowed his head weakly. "Sir, I owe you my life." Stephen placed a gentle hand on both their shoulders. "You don't owe me anything. Family is worth fighting for." He looked around at the unconscious criminals. And tonight, justice won. But the war was far from over. The pendant still had secrets. And the men behind the leader, the true villains, would soon learn that Steven Seagal was coming for them next. And he wasn't coming quietly. The warehouse fell completely silent. The men who had tried to kill Anna and Leo now lay scattered across the cracked concrete floor, groaning, defeated, and terrified of the man who took them down with his bare hands. Moonlight poured through the roof's broken panels, casting long shadows across Steven Seagal's calm but dangerous face. Anna held her brother tightly, her heart still racing from the chaos. Leo leaned against her, weak but alive. Steven scanned the room, checking every corner, every pile of crates, every flicker of movement. "Anna," he said quietly, "untie your brother. We're leaving in 5 minutes." Anna nodded, but her voice trembled. "Steven, who were these people? Why did they want the pendant so badly?" Steven didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked to a fallen metal chair and wiped blood off his knuckles with a torn piece of cloth. Then he turned to Anna with a grim expression. "Because the pendant isn't jewelry. It's a key. The truth hidden in jade." Anna frowned. "A key? To what?" Steven pulled out the pendant and twisted its jade surface gently. The stone clicked open, revealing the tiny code engraved inside. "It's a vault code," Steven explained. "One that leads to documents in Hong Kong, documents that expose a criminal empire." Leo blinked. "Whose empire?" Steven's jaw tightened. "A man named Victor Dravos." Anna felt a cold chill run through her body. "I've heard that name," she whispered. "People say he's a billionaire, a philanthropist." Steven shook his head slowly. "He's a monster with money. And he's been hiding behind charities while running one of the largest trafficking networks in Asia." Leo's eyes widened. "And this code exposes him?" "Yes," Steven said. "The documents in that vault are enough to bury him forever. That's why he wants this pendant, and why he used you." Anna felt sick. "So all this, everything we suffered, it was because of him." Steven placed the pendant gently in her palm. "It wasn't your fault. Dravos has destroyed many families. But tonight, he failed." But something felt wrong. Steven looked around again. Something was bothering him. The warehouse had too many exits. Too many blind corners. Too many opportunities for someone else to be watching. He moved toward one of the broken windows and studied the darkness outside. Anna saw his expression change. "What is it?" Steven spoke without turning around. "Someone else was here." Leo swallowed. What do you mean?" "These men weren't smart enough to find this pendant on their own," Steven said. "And they definitely weren't trained enough to coordinate this ambush." Steven bent down, lifting a small piece of metal from the ground. It was a tiny earpiece, sleek, high-tech, military-grade. "Someone was listening," Steven murmured. Someone was giving orders from a distance. Anna's breath hitched. You mean Victor? No, Stephen replied. Dravos doesn't get his hands dirty. He sends someone else. Someone with training. A sudden realization hit Anna. Stephen, does that mean they know we survived? That we still have the pendant? Stephen looked her straight in the eyes. They know everything. Before Anna could reply, a loud metallic clang echoed through the warehouse. Stephen spun instantly, pulling Anna and Leo behind him. But it wasn't a threat. It was Stephen's phone. The secure one. The one that almost nobody had the number to. He answered it cautiously. Stephen. The voice on the other end was calm, icy, and disturbingly familiar. Impressive work tonight, the voice said. You still move like a man half your age. Stephen's grip tightened around the phone. His eyes turned hard. Dravos. Anna froze when she heard the name said out loud. There was a faint chuckle. I must admit. I was hoping my men would at least slow you down. But then again, you've always been a disappointment to my expectations. Stephen didn't take the bait. His voice stayed controlled. Why Anna? Why her brother? Because loyalty is rare, Dravos said coldly. And fear is the easiest way to create it. Stephen stepped further from Anna and Leo, lowering his voice so only the phone could hear. You cross another line tonight. Lines are illusions, Dravos whispered. And you are standing on the wrong side. Stephen glanced at the fallen earpiece in his hand. You watching me right now? I've always been watching, Dravos replied. And I'll continue, until the pendant is in my hands. Stephen's voice turned into stone. You'll never get it. Dravos laughed softly. Oh, Stephen, you always were amusing. Goodbye, for now. The call disconnected. The message behind the words. Anna rushed toward Stephen. What did he say? Stephen put the phone away. He knows everything. Where we are. What we have. And he's not going to stop. Leo looked terrified. Then what do we do? He'll kill us. Stephen shook his head. No. Because he made one mistake. Anna frowned. What mistake? Stephen looked toward the night sky, determination burning in his eyes. He warned me. Stephen helped Leo stand, supporting him gently. We need to leave now, Stephen said. They'll send more men. He won't wait. Anna nodded, but her voice was shaky. Stephen, where do we go? He stepped toward her, his voice calm but powerful. We go to Hong Kong. Leo blinked. Hong Kong? Why? Because that vault is our only leverage, Stephen said. If we get to it first, we expose Dravos. Anna felt her fear mix with courage. And if we don't? Stephen looked directly at her. Then Dravos wins. And I don't lose. He motioned toward the exit. Let's go. A war has started, and it's time we take the fight to him. Anna held the pendant tightly. Leo leaned on Stephen for strength. And together, they stepped into the darkness. Not as victims. But as the team that would bring down a monster. The plane touched down in Hong Kong just after dusk. Skyscrapers glowed like pillars of fire against the night sky, and neon signs flickered across busy streets. The city looked alive, but beneath the energy was a darker pulse, one Steven Seagal could feel in his bones. As Anna and Leo stepped off the plane beside him, Stephen scanned the airport with trained precision. His instincts were on full alert. Dravos had eyes everywhere. And Stephen knew the moment they landed, the clock started ticking. The safe house. By midnight, they were inside a dim apartment overlooking the harbor. A trusted friend of Stephen's had prepared it, a former intelligence officer known only as Marco. Marco greeted them with a slight bow. Seagal, you've stepped into a hornet's nest. Dravos reinforced his security the moment he learned you survived the warehouse. Stephen nodded. I expected that. Anna sat anxiously at the table, clutching the pendant. Marco, can you help us get to the vault? Marco's expression darkened. The vault is beneath the Jade Tower, Dravos' headquarters. Hundreds of guards. Facial recognition scanners. Laser corridors. And an elite unit guarding the bottom level. Leo swallowed loudly. So, impossible? Stephen shook his head. Nothing is impossible. Hard? Yes. Stupid? Definitely. Deadly? Absolutely. He turned to the window, eyes narrowing at the distant Jade Tower glowing green against the skyline. But necessary. Engagement moment. Stephen turned slightly, as if addressing someone beyond the room. And now you, the viewer. Be honest. If a criminal had evidence hidden in a fortress like this, would you try to break in? Or would you walk away and save yourself? He pauses. Tell me. What would you choose? The elite operatives, Vipers. Just then, Marco placed a small dossier on the table. Stephen opened it, and inside were 6 photos. Each face looked colder than the last. These, Marco said, are Dravo's elite operatives. They call themselves Vipers. Anna shivered. Have they killed people? Marco exhaled slowly. They are ghosts. When they strike, no bodies are found. Leo looked horrified. So that means... Stephen interrupted quietly. It means they'll be coming after us. He studied each face carefully. A silent sniper named Cade. A knife expert called Silk. A tech infiltrator known as Ghostline. A brutal enforcer called Mammoth. A speed fighter named Switchblade. And their leader. Vera Dravos. Anna gasped. Dravo's sister? Yes, Marco said. And the deadliest of them all. Stephen closed the folder. She'll come for the pendant, and for Anna. The first attack. Just as those words settled, the lights flickered. Then went out. The room plunged into darkness. Everyone move. Stephen snapped. Anna grabbed Leo. Marco reached for a hidden weapon. Stephen positioned himself between them and the door. A soft tapping sound echoed in the hallway. Tap, tap, tap. Marco, Stephen whispered, which Viper taps? Marco's voice trembled. Switchblade. There was no time to prepare. The door exploded inward, splintering into wooden shards. A figure in black darted through, fast, agile, almost blurry. Twin blades glinted in the moonlight. Switchblade. He lunged straight for Anna. Stephen intercepted him with a forearm block so powerful it echoed through the room. Switchblade spun, cutting the air with deadly speed. Stephen dodged one strike, another grazed his sleeve, then countered with a palm strike that sent Switchblade crashing into the wall. But Switchblade wasn't done. He launched forward again, blade slicing the air. Stephen grabbed a broken table leg, using it like a baton. Wood clashed against steel in a violent rhythm. Leo hid behind the couch. Stephen, look out. Stephen ducked a blade that would have cut his throat, then swept Switchblade's legs. The assassin hit the ground. Stephen pinned him with a knee to the chest. Who sent you? Stephen growled. Switchblade grinned beneath his mask. You already know. Stephen didn't need another word. He struck Switchblade's wrist. Both blades flew across the floor. A single chop to the neck ended it. Switchblade went unconscious. Anna dropped to her knees in shock. Stephen, how did he find us so fast? Stephen stood, breathing heavily. He didn't find us, Stephen said grimly. He was already here. Marco stared in horror. You mean? Yes, Stephen answered. Dravos has been tracking us since we landed. They had to move, now. Stephen grabbed Switchblade's comm device. A red light blinked rapidly. They know we're here, Stephen said. And more are coming. Leo panicked. What do we do? Stephen turned to Anna. Do you still have the pendant? She nodded shakily and handed it to him. Stephen pressed the code against a small scanner Marco kept in the safe house. A holographic map appeared, revealing the vault's location inside Jade Tower. There, Stephen said. Level -12. The deepest level. Anna swallowed. How do we get inside? Stephen pulled out a black tactical bag stuffed with gear. We walk in. Leo stared. Walk in? Are you insane? Stephen zipped the bag shut. Sometimes the best way to enter a fortress is to act like you belong there. The message from the enemy. Before they could leave, Stephen's secure phone buzzed. Only one person could be calling. He answered it. Stephen, Dravo's voice purred, did you like my little gift? Switchblade was supposed to bring you back alive, but I suppose you're still full of surprises. Stephen didn't reply. Dravos continued. I hope you appreciate the attention, because the rest of my Vipers are already on their way. And when they arrive, there will be nowhere left for you to run. Stephen's voice dropped into cold steel. Then I'll stop running. Dravos laughed softly. Good. I enjoy the chase, before the kill. The call ended. War was coming. Stephen pocketed the phone. Anna, Leo, pack only essentials. Marco, secure the room. We leave in 3 minutes. Anna's voice trembled. Stephen, Are we going to survive this? He placed a hand on her shoulder, firm, reassuring, unshakable. We're not just going to survive. He looked out the window toward the jade tower glowing like an emerald giant. We're going to end this. And with the pendant in hand, Steven Seagal led his small team into the night, knowing that the next battle would be the deadliest yet. News travels fast, faster than Steven ever expected. By the next morning, whispers about the unconscious millionaire who overheard a heartbreaking secret from his maid were spreading through the entire estate staff. No one knew the full story, but everyone had felt the tremors of what had happened the previous night. And Steven, he hadn't slept at all. All night he replayed her voice in his mind, the tremble, the quiet struggle, the unbearable pain hidden in her words. If only someone would help us, even just for a little while. He lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about Maria, the woman he had judged for years without ever trying to know her. Her voice echoed through his chest like a drumbeat of guilt. He had spent half his life doing stunts, surviving explosions in films, fighting villains on screen. Yet he had never felt fear like this, fear that he had become the very thing he despised, cold, distant, blind to the suffering around him. By sunrise, he was sitting alone in the garden, the dew still fresh on the grass as he rubbed his hands together anxiously. This time, he wasn't rehearsing some heroic line. He wasn't planning a dramatic entrance. He was thinking, deep, painfully, honestly. Because what he heard last night wasn't just a confession. It was a cry for help. A cry he had no right to ignore. Just after 8 a.m., Maria arrived for work, her eyes slightly swollen behind the smile she forced. She didn't expect him to be awake, much less sitting on the garden bench waiting for her. When she saw him, she froze, clutching the small fabric bag she always carried. Steven stood slowly, gently, as if approaching a frightened bird. "Maria," he began, his voice low and unsteady, "can we talk?" She wasn't just surprised, she was shocked. In all these years, he had never addressed her gently. Never asked. Never softened. She nodded, though her eyes flickered with confusion. "I overheard you yesterday," he admitted, lifting his gaze to meet hers. "I wasn't trying to. I wasn't even supposed to be awake. But I heard you, talking to someone. And I heard what you said." Her breath caught instantly. Her hands shook. The bag fell slightly from her grip. "Sir, I didn't mean." "No," he cut in softly. "Please. Let me finish." He took a slow step closer. "You said your son is sick," he continued. "You said the treatments are too expensive. You said you're working extra hours, cleaning more houses, carrying the stress alone." She blinked rapidly, but tears still escaped. "Sir, I didn't want you to know. I didn't want anyone to know. It's shameful. It's my burden." Steven shook his head immediately. "Suffering is not shame," he said, voice firmer now. "Silence is." Maria covered her mouth with her hand as tears spilled freely. She had carried the weight for so long that hearing kindness, even once, shattered her. Steven exhaled shakily. "I realized something last night," he continued. "I've lived in this house for years, but I've never truly seen the people who keep it running. I've never asked how you are. I've never cared about your struggles. And that's on me." He swallowed hard. "You deserved better." Maria shook her head. "Sir, you don't owe me anything. You give me a job, that is already more than many people have." "That's not enough," Steven replied sharply, surprising both of them. "Not when your child's life is hanging in the balance." She broke down then, not from despair, but from the sudden release of holding everything inside. Steven hesitated, then, for the first time in years, placed his hands gently on someone with no cameras, no scripts, no audience. "Tell me everything," he said softly. "Every detail. Every bill. Every test. I want to know what your son needs." Maria wiped her tears with trembling fingers. "He needs a surgery," she whispered. "And medications afterward. And weekly checkups. Sir, it's too much. I would need 10 years' salary." Steven inhaled sharply. 10 years. For her, impossible. For him, barely a dent. As silence settled between them, Steven finally understood the weight of privilege sitting on his shoulders. What good was all his success if he couldn't use it to lift even one person out of desperation? He straightened, resolve burning in his chest. "Maria," he said firmly, "your son will get that surgery." She stared at him, stunned. "Sir, no. That's too much. I can't accept." "You're not accepting charity," Steven interrupted. "You're accepting help. And help is what any decent human would offer. But. No buts, he said. I want to meet your son today. Then I'll call the hospital myself. Everything will be covered. Maria fell to her knees, sobbing, overwhelmed. Sir, I don't know how to thank you. By never apologizing for being human, Stephen replied. Later that day, Stephen visited the small apartment where Maria lived. The sight broke him. A thin mattress. Old furniture. Medication bottles lined on a cracked table. Her son, pale, frail, but smiling shyly at the unexpected guest. Stephen knelt, shook the boy's hand gently, and promised him a future. Not a movie promise. A real one. Within hours, arrangements were made. Doctors were contacted. Payments processed. Transportation scheduled. Everything handled personally by Stephen. No assistants, no managers, no middlemen. For once, he wasn't acting a role. He was being human. 2 months later, when the boy walked again, strong, cheerful, alive, Maria hugged Stephen with a gratitude words could never describe. And Stephen? He smiled softly. Thank you, he whispered, for waking me up. Because the truth was simple. He had pretended to be unconscious. But it was her words, her heart, her pain, that finally brought him back to life.